How you doing, guys? This is Eric from RuleTheWasteland.com and SecretOfTheInternet.com. Excuse me if I'm a little out of it. I've been still up all night following the trumpeting, and that's what I wanted to talk about was exactly all my prophecies, what came true, what didn't, and where we're at right now. So the first thing I want to do is go over the ones that I got wrong, because that's easiest. First of all, because there's a lot fewer of them. The biggest whopper that I probably had, people called me on this. I knew at the time that it wasn't likely. I even said it was one of the things I was least confident in my last video. But that was Vermont flipping for Trump. And I wasn't saying that because I thought Trump would win a majority there, but I thought maybe I'd heard some rumors and things like that about Bernie Sanders perhaps getting a big write-in campaign there, and thought it maybe it's possible that he could pull enough away from Hillary to where Trump could win with 30, 35% of the vote or something like that. He ended up getting 32% roughly of the vote, almost 33. So, if something like that had happened, it would have had to have been a really solid split, though, because it was 61% of the vote. It would have had to cut that in half. So, it wasn't a great call. That one didn't pan out. But that was my most absurd kind of out there prediction that I didn't really put too much stock in, but I did make it, so it didn't come true. Next one, state-wise, really the only one I messed up in terms of thinking Trump would get it and he didn't was Nevada. I mean, there was other ones that I didn't think Trump would get, and he did. But like, yeah, it was very close. Like Michigan is really the only one. So I thought he would get Nevada. I said Colorado maybe, but I wasn't confident in it. And I said I had a weird feeling about Wisconsin. And I said I made the claim officially that either Wisconsin or Michigan, at least one of those would go for Trump. And now it looks like both of them went for Trump. They called Wisconsin. Michigan, they're still dragging their feet. 99% reporting. He's up by 15,000 votes. Half a percent, not even. Very, very tight. New Hampshire, I made the call that one would go for Trump, that one for Trump. So the only ones I was wrong about were Nevada, Vermont, and the other thing was I thought Trump would win the popular vote by a big margin. Some people were saying that they don't think he's going to even win the popular vote when all's said and done, but he's still holding out with 0.2% now. We still have some reporting to do in California, and so it's possible that he could be slightly behind in the popular vote when all's said and done. Be very interesting. Because I figured the exact opposite would happen. I did predict a Trump win, but when it came down to it, I thought he'd have a fairly good margin in the popular vote and would be very tight with the Electoral College, and we've got it to where it's almost the opposite. So, very interesting there. Now, what I got right, obviously, the Trump win. I predicted it. I said one way or another it's going to happen, and it did. And we were good about that one. As far as the states go, like I mentioned, I got most of the states right. I predicted Texas and Georgia would not be anywhere close to flipping. That was true. They're not in play. Trump got Georgia with 51%, Texas with almost 53%. And they took so long to call these states, and I'm like, give me a break, guys. You're embarrassing yourselves. Like Georgia and Texas are not going for Hillary Clinton. But these were the same people who thought that he had, not necessarily the same people, but the mainstream media were still having people making claims like the Huffington Post that there was a less than 2% chance of Trump winning the election less than a week ago. I made the claim that North Carolina, Ohio, and Pennsylvania would all go Trump. I made the claim that Florida would go Trump. It did. I made like I said, the claim that at least Wisconsin or Michigan would go Trump. I said I had a feeling about Wisconsin. It definitely went. Michigan looks like it's in the bag too. Squeaker, but it made it. It's crazy. Even Minnesota was on the table. Like Minnesota, it looks like it's about over, but the margin of error there is seriously like less than 50,000 votes. Fraction of like a less than a full percent in Minnesota. Something that like I don't think Reagan even got in the last his last election. Very wild, very blue state. And so he almost had like a Rust Belt sweep there, Rust Belt sweep minus like Minnesota and Illinois. Pretty wild. Virginia, he was leading in Virginia early. Ended up losing by about 4%, so not that surprising, but pretty good margins there. But he was leading it for a while. So was right about all those states. So far, the only states I was wrong about was Nevada, Vermont, And Michigan I didn't think would go Trump, and it did. But I said it's possible. And literally everything else I called the states almost exactly. So he got his one electoral vote in Maine. So yeah, I mean we're talking pretty close to dead on. Another one that I made another claim that I made was the actual tally of electoral votes. Now, like I said, I was a little short. I didn't do it or estimate it high enough in favor of Trump. And a lot of people were telling me it wasn't even going to come anywhere close to what I was saying. I predicted, my official prediction in that video was 286 to 303. A 17-point range, somewhere in like the one state difference range, something like that. One state could make that difference. And it looks like he's blowing by that. He's got they're counting him at 279 right now. That's not counting Arizona for some reason on this map. The New York Times has not called that yet. That's another 11. That puts him at 290. If he does get Michigan, that puts him at another 16. So that's 306. If he does get New Hampshire, that put him at 310. So close to what I was saying, but not quite. So it will be in the range, I think, if he got Arizona and New Hampshire, but not if somehow Michigan he doesn't end up getting, which I don't think that's going to happen. I think he's more likely to not get New Hampshire because they still have 7% that's left to report, and he's only ahead by 400, 500 votes or something crazy. So if he just gets Michigan and Arizona, that's 16 plus 11, so 27. Yeah, so it would still be right over that. It'd be 306. So close though. I said 286 to 303, so that's close. And I had said that VA was possible too. Now it didn't happen. I said Colorado and VA were possible. So saying possible doesn't really mean much. I'm not going to take credit for that. But I did correctly identify that they were in play. Colorado, Clinton won by less than 3%. Virginia was won by 4%. So that one wasn't that close, but it was leading for a while until we got into those northern counties near DC and everything. And another big one of the claims that I'd mentioned specifically was you were hearing a lot about the third party vote. Everyone's pissed off with these people. They're going to all vote third party. Jill Stein is going to get 4%. Gary Johnson's going to get 10%. I had made the claim officially that if Jill Stein gets 4% of the popular vote, I would eat my fucking shorts. And obviously, she came nowhere near that. It was much closer to what I predicted, that she may even get 2 or 3 times what she's gotten before. I think she got somewhere in the neighborhood of 1%, maybe 1.5% overall, which her previous performance was less than 0.5%, so it was true, but she didn't do 15 times. And Donald Trump, not Donald Trump, he won. Gary Johnson, I'm tired, sorry. He got not even 10% in New Mexico. He got 9% there. And what was interesting is he got 2 or 3% in a lot of states. It was actually the flyover Midwestern states, the Wyomings and Nebraskas, Montana. He got 5.5%. That's pretty impressive. Libertarian showing in those at 7% in Idaho. That's impressive. And the states where you think he might do well in, like Florida and some of those, like Georgia, he got very badly in Florida, only 2.2%. I mean, that's badly considering this election. Historically, that's not that bad at all. But he was actually beating that in some of these New England states. Connecticut 3%, Massachusetts he got 4%, New Jersey 1.9, New York 2.3. So Virginia 3%. So interesting performances there. Weird to see those numbers shake out the way they did, but still nowhere near, less, well under half in most states, usually a third or fourth of this supposed polling number that people were giving him and the other third-party candidates earlier on. I was totally right about that. So, yeah, Stein got 1%, Gary Johnson got 3% nationally. So, above what they've ever gotten before, but nowhere near the numbers that they were showing in the polls. So I was right about that. So I was right about pretty much everything except a couple of states and the national overall vote, popular vote, being lopsided in favor of Trump. Not lopsided, but I figured he'd win by a couple million votes. I'm also a little surprised in the turnout. I thought turnout would be higher than in 2012. I mean, right now, Donald Trump is winning with less votes than, if these counts are right, He's winning with less votes than Romney lost with, which is crazy. I would have never guessed that. So it means a lot of people stayed home, and certain, well, not not compared to general, but compared to last election. But that may just be that these haven't come in yet, and I'm getting the numbers wrong. Because I remember even Drudge had a thing that said predicted that the final tally would be approaching 140 million, and by this right now the total tally is less than 120 million. So that's surprising, very surprising. But and actually that doesn't count the third party vote either. That just counts what each Hillary and Trump had gotten. So maybe closer to 140 million votes were cast, but still doesn't seem like it'd be that much. So that's a little bit interesting. I'll have to dig in that later when all the data is coming because I'm still looking at the older map from New York Times. It hasn't even called Arizona, Michigan, or New Hampshire yet. So who knows what's going on. But those are my predictions. It appears that I was also right. Another prediction I made. I was also right about Donald Trump beating Romney's percentages with the black vote and the Hispanic vote. So it appears I was right about almost everything. All my prophecies were come true, with the exception of a couple minor ones. So couldn't be happier. And all the people who doubted me, you can take a hike. Thanks for watching.